My encouragement to you this week, go ahead, take a look at your family life. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? If it's getting worse, can you do something about it? I believe you can. If it's getting better, that's great. And, just continue to work together and see that vision, because when two becomes one, that vision even doubles up. It gets more powerful. Hey, welcome friends and family. So excited to be here with you today at our Cookeville Elevate studio, continuing on our discussion about vision. Elevate your vision. And just want to remind you that Elevate is a faith-led coaching and mentorship program with an emphasis on leadership. And what every great leader knows is you got to have a vision. You got to have a direction, somewhere you're going. Now, last week we had talked a little bit about the will of life. I'm just going to quickly reintroduce you to the will of life. The will of life is something that Zig Ziglar is the one who I learned from about the will of life. And his thoughts were, if you have a will and it's perfectly rounded out, then your ride's going to be smooth. But if you got little bumps in it and dents in it, then it's going to be a thump, 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 and it's not going to be as enjoyable of a ride. And he talked about that we should learn to have some balance in our life in all areas: spiritual, financial, career, mental, personal. So today we're going to be talking about the will of life in the area of family. See, our family is such an important part of our will of life, because imagine we had a blossoming career, but we're losing ground in the family. How's that going to feel? Yeah, you may be making lots of money, but when you come home, she ain't calling you honey. Okay, so family is so important. This is one part of the will that we don't want to fall asleep at the wheel when we talk about our family. Now, folks, I'm going to go back here and just tell you a story about my wife, Lindsay. Lindsay and I, when we first met, which was probably about 20 years ago now, I'll never forget my boss at the time, an amazing lady, Miss Jane Wright, the phenomenal Miss Jane Wright, who introduced us. I was working under Miss Jane at her brokerage at Century 21, and she had went on a cruise. She met a lady that worked on the cruise ship. It happened to be Lindsay Castelli. At that time, it was Lindsay Davis. And she invited Lindsay to come back and visit. So Lindsay took a 10-day visa to come and visit. She flew over that little pond from Great Britain, flew 3,000 miles away to come visit Miss Jane. And I'll never forget. Miss Jane, she introduced me like this. She says, "Hey, I know this guy. He's not got a whole lot going on. I'm sure he'd be glad to show you around." Well, I'm going to be honest with you. At that time, Miss Jane was probably right. In real estate, I didn't have a whole lot going on. At that time, my primary focus and vision was with youth ministry. We took a group of about 8 kids, and in a matter of 3 to 4 years, we grew that to nearly 100 children, and loved working in that program. But real estate was kind of a side thing for me. But Miss Jane introduced me to Lindsay, and she was right. I was glad to show her around. Now, I was impressed with Lindsay right off the bat because of the courage. See, I understood at that time in life that it takes courage to leave everybody they drive on a different side of the road, and it's always rainy there, not sunny like it is here. And so I knew it took a lot of courage for this young woman to travel 3,000 miles to come visit here in Tennessee. And so I was happy to show her around. However, as far as marriage material goes, I wasn't even thinking of that. Why? Because it wasn't because she wasn't beautiful, wasn't because she wasn't very attractive in her character, but it was because at that time she wasn't born again. And I did not believe in being unequally yoked. I had read the Bible enough to know that you have to be equally yoked, meaning that you have to share the same vision. You got to be going in the same direction. And so have the same core values. And so but something amazing happened. While Lindsay was in America, Jane invited her to go to Stephen Street Church with her and Donnie. And while she was there, Lindsay said it was like a veil just dropped. And all of a sudden, she just began to weep. And obviously it was a born-again experience. She truly got touched that day and began to get interested in the things of God. I'll never forget, after that 10 days was up, Lindsay said, "It's great. Thank you for showing me around. I'll be back. I'm going to go to university to be a chiropractor here." And I thought, yeah, that's great, Lindsay. It was nice to know you. Hope all your travels go well. Folks, by that time in my life, I'd seen a lot of people say one thing and do another. I knew that follow-up wasn't too common with most people. And I knew, words are easy, but leaving everything and everybody you're used to come here, within 6 months, I was at the Knoxville airport picking Lindsay up and bringing her back to Miss Jane's house. I was so impressed. Now, for the second time, something about that character impressed me. She did what she said she was going to do. She followed through on what she said she was going to do. So to me, that spoke volumes because, again, she carried herself very well, had great courage, and actually did what she said she was going to do. These are characteristics that I think are very attractive in any individual. I'm just so fortunate to have God have given me that in my wife. Carry on. We get married, have children. It's Lindsay's 40th birthday. And I said, babe, what do you want to do for your 40th? And I'm expecting that anybody that knows my wife would know. You might be parachuting out of a plane. You might be climbing a mountain. It's going to be something to do with adventure. And so I was kind of squinting when I said it. And she said, hey, I see that the Zieglers are going to be in Dallas. Perhaps we could go out there and get involved in that teaching. In my jaw, I had to pick it up because that's something I would love to do. And I was like, well, now, babe, I said, anything for your 40th birthday you want to do, let's go do. And she said, really, I'd like to go out there and get more connected and learn a little bit more in that area with the Zieglers. And that is where I got introduced to the Wheel of Life, Tom Ziegler, David Wright, Kanye Wright, the phenomenal Howard Partridge, and just such a great, great community that I still am plugged into today. But folks, what I'm really driving home to is the value of family. I have people ask me all the time, how do you end up, and I'm so fortunate to have this question asked, how do you get two great children like you have? And I say, you know what, the secret to that is having a great mother. And they know it. Anybody that knows Lindsay knows that's so true. Guys, I'll never forget, I was telling Lindsay one day about some of the hardships I had grown up in, me and my brother, and some of the challenges. And I'll never forget, Lindsay looked at me and she said, Elijah, mothers should never be like that. If you've had a bad day and she should be able to recognize that, call you over, set you down in her lap, and ask you questions and just love on you. And it was then I knew this woman will make an excellent mother. See, just a little bit before meeting Lindsay, I was reading books by Josh McDowell, who wrote books called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. He didn't believe in dating for just the sake of dating. He believed in dating to get married. If it was going to be a date, then there should be enough evidence there that this is somebody that you should be able to consider a marriage partner. And I remember as I read through those books, I wrote down more than 4, it's probably 10, but I remember these 4 things. They just come to mind instantly. I wrote down that I wanted a leader. I wanted to marry a woman that was a leader. I wanted to marry a woman who would share in my vision, that would not just share in it, but encourage me in that vision. I wanted to marry a woman that would be great with children, because at that time I was a youth pastor. I also wanted to marry a woman that would be great with my children, our children. And that day I knew that this is, and I would have to be squinting to not know that God was putting her in my life. So there I was, in my early 30s, falling in love and ready to get married. And because of Lindsay, I have so many things in life that I would have never had. I've got the Wheel of Life. I've met the Zieglers. I've got introduced to the Howard Partridge community. We've built this company together. But what's so important is that we have 2 amazing children that we can be able to pour into and share legacy with. And that just doesn't, what I want to share with you today is that the person you marry is probably the most important partner in your life. You'll probably never have a more important partner in your life than your marriage partner, because they're going to go everywhere with you. They're going to encourage you and help you to achieve your greatest goals, your greatest vision, live out your purpose. And hopefully you'll do the same for them. Now, I think of that Bible verse that says, when 2 become one. And that is powerful for your vision. If you have a vision, then when 2 become one, your vision gets doubled when you 2 come together. So now you have two people pulling in the same direction. See, it's awful hard when you see a marriage where one's pulling this way and one's pulling that way. That's hard, guys. That's probably going to make you sick some days, and you're going to double over in pain. And what's the problem is it's not just going to affect you, it's going to affect your children. And it's not just going to affect your children, it could affect your children's children. So why is it so important to make sure that you get the right spouse, that you have the right partner in life and in family? And so in my will of life, I would say it starts with your partner, who you marry, your wife or your husband. In my case, my wife was so important. What an amazing partner. I have went so much further in life than I would have ever imagined. You know, you hear behind every good man's a great woman. In my case, that's 100% accurate. But you know what? I would say that's not a rarity. Now, it may be a rarity that a couple actually work together, that sharing the same vision, that sharing life, that really work hard to raise up good, godly children, are committed to helping each other to be each other's best friends and best persons that they possibly can be. That may be rare. But the fact is, whenever you see somebody doing something really great, there's probably somebody that's really encouraged them. My encouragement to you today is look at your family. Look at that. Is it expanding or is it decreasing? And if it's expanding, congratulations, man. Our hat goes off to you. If it's decreasing, don't let that go too long. Look in there and figure out what kind of encouragement, what kind of effort do you need to make sure that it doesn't decrease and desist, but that it expands. It's not hard to do. You've just got to be honest and take a look at it. So my encouragement to you this week, go ahead, take a look at your family life. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? If it's getting worse, can you do something about it? I believe you can. If it's getting better, that's great. And, you know, just continue to work together and see that vision, because when two becomes one, that vision even doubles up. It gets more powerful. Folks, I hope this has added some value to you. We'll be back with you next week talking a little bit more about vision. We're going to go continue down the wheel of life, and we're going to speak more about vision to you next week. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great week.